Right. Okay. There we go. All right. This is my review for Guards, which is the first book that I've ever read of Discworld, the 41 book behemoth of a series, and first book by Terry Pratchett as well. And I've always seen the series mentioned, and it's been mentioned by like a million people how great it is, right? But I've always been, you know, we've always been turned off by, at least we used to, be turned off by like, oh, it's a funny book, or these are funny absurdist books, and I was like, I mean, absurdism, I'm not a big fan of. Like, I'm picturing like nothing making sense and like the own logic of the world doesn't make sense. That's what I think of with absurdism or things just being weird to be weird, which that doesn't that doesn't feel great either. It just feels like if there's no rules, then there are no rules to care about to me, and I don't like that. So that is why I did not do that, and I've never found a book really to be crazy funny. I think the closest I've been has been like firstly like a smile when I read something by Severo, a saying Severo has a good phrase in Red Rising that makes me go like, ooh, rough. Something like that. Like he says something really crass. That's his character. Or the other one was in Nicholas Eames' the Band series. So, but in the first book really, because the second book was meh, but the first book, which was what is it called? Kings of the Wild, great book. Kings of the Wild. If you haven't reread it in the last since now, if you haven't reread it, Bob in the Future, then please do. It's fucking awesome. Anyways, I laughed the first time really loudly, like a little bit, like oh, like laughing a bit during one part of that book. Then you'll remember it was the king and his son. Let's say when you found out that he's just a cuck, which is hilarious. And then the rest of that book was kind of funny. But this book, Guards, was absolutely hilarious. Absolutely. Every other page, I was like smiling or chuckling. And then, like a handful of times, I laughed out loud. One in particular where I paused the book and laughed for like a straight minute, which I would not believe would happen in a book, like in a book setting. I think movies, TV shows, very easy to do, especially with my type of humor, our type of humor. And this book did it. Like, it was hilarious. And with the absurdism, it was absurd. Its rules were absurd in that, like, if you want a, hard-nosed fantasy sci-fi, like these, it would completely kind of break that feeling. But since this is a absurd world, then the rules which do make sense that but are absurd, they work, and they're fun and they're funny, and it's really really good, and I loved it. It's about 400 pages. I looked at the next two books, their lengths, they're the same length, like 400 pages, and I finished it in a day. It was just that good. I was just pounding it down. It was amazing. And yeah, I loved it. I'll get into the pros, right? This won't be crazy long. There's not a million things to say about it, right? But I'm reading it, so for context, I wanted a break between I read the first two books of the Sun Eater series, and they're kind of meh, mediocre, not mediocre, a step above mediocre, kind of meh, but they just go. They're both a bit overlong, and sometimes more than a bit, and just very serious and dour, and I don't care enough about the characters to care about that at this point, at least. So I'm two down, and I don't want to roll right into a third one because I want to at least rejuvenate a little bit before I start getting back into it, because I bought all five books, and so I will finish these books to get my money's worth, right? So I wanted some kind of break, and I don't want to. I'm talking with Anichka, and we're looking at reading like Dostoevsky, and I'm just like, I tried before, and it's serious, and then I'll try something. I want to try a new fantasy thing, right? Because fantasy is kind of like comfort. It's like comfort food for reading, for us. And so I was like, all right, what can we do? And then Discworld, I heard it was funny, and I was like, I could use some humor right now. I could use some humor, and it's supposed to be well loved on a lot of lists. It's like in the top 5 best ever, right? So I said, all right, I'll try it. Where to look? And there's apparently like 4 or 5 different series inside the series, and I wanted it. One of them was Witches. I almost started, but the other one, which was the Night Watch, which sounds fun. Guards, and I like that the aspect of it'll probably be like a brotherhood of some kind, right? Like companionable. Is that a word? Anyways, so I started that, and I immediately am just in love with it. So I am reading the second one right now. I'm like 5% through. I haven't really done much. However, it is great. Like Guards is great. A great little detour from this super serious sci-fi that I'm busting through right now. So I think after the second book is done, I will be finally ready to jump back into the Sun Eater world, where everything is grim, everything is dour, and you watch this man's descent, really ascent, like politically and all this, but descent morally, right? Right, so we'll see. Hopefully, it gets better too. But Terry Pratchett, if we stay at this level, then I see this being maybe like top or second best fantasy, third best maybe, like in the top 3 for sure. Best fantasy I've ever read. I would go with Lord of the Rings, and then I would go, if it stays at this quality, like this. But that's premature, obviously, and we'll see how it goes. And yeah, cons though. So let me go. Pros: hilariously funny. I already said at least one chuckle every other page. The characters crazy memorable. Carrots, nah, Carrot's hilarious. I really like. Was it Nobby? I forget. Colin's funny. Like I'm picturing, especially for and Vimes and all that, the Patrician. But for Knobs, I'm gonna call him Nobby. Nobby, his whole like him and how he's described and how he is in life reminds me of freaking, what's his name? I've already forgotten his name. Oh, I don't know. He was the guy that we deployed with on the Annapolis, and he was just like a shit-eating bootlicker who you couldn't trust. He was like all that kind of stuff. But this is like a funny version of him, and I get extra enjoyment. And he's just super funny. He's in like he kicks up people when they're down. It's like, why are you doing that? He was like, that's when it's safest. When they're unconscious, he's like is one of his jobs as a night watch guy is to at night go in and like check door handles to make sure it's locked, so like they're not stolen at the night. But if he just goes in and steals things if they're unlocked, and if they're not unlocked, he picks the lock and goes in and steals stuff. Like that's the caliber of night watch that this guy is, and no one knows like what he does during like outside of work. It's just commonly comes up like, what do you even do? And it comes out that he like is a part of this group of like folk dancing in like in like stupid frilly outfits, and it's hilarious. Like he's really funny. Sergeant Colin is funny. Vimes is really hilariously funny too. Drunk. Carrot's great. God, I'm a huge fan. And I'm very glad they're not just a one-off. Like we get to see more and more of them, and the Night Watch will grow, I'm guessing, as we go. It's just hilarious. Cons. So the only cons I have is there are about 20 to 30 pages in this 400-page book that don't need to be there, and not like specifics, let's say, but like in a specific part of the book, in the third part, and it's when after the dragon has like appeared, right, and it's now like destroying the town, right? I think it would have been a lot quicker and cleaner if we could have maybe skipped over the part when Sergeant Colon is like trying to rally the townspeople and to fight the dragon, and the dragon comes down and burns one of the dudes, and then they disperse, kind of thing. Or yeah, that part, right? And that's maybe like 10, 15, 20 pages maybe, right? And the lead up, and then after that, I see what they're trying to do and trying to show like that, and then they even bring it up at the end that like the patricians' view on humanity is very very negative, while the Vimes is more positive, and it's like, when will humanity like be good? When will it step up, overthrow the dictator, that kind of thing, right? And that part that it had kind of went to show that, went to prove it in a real world setting, that once like the mob can be easily dispersed with just a show of force. And you showed that with a few other times when Vimes had to disperse the crowd or Carrot or whatever. And I see what they're trying to do, or I see what he was trying to do. However, I believe without that, and without, let's say, pushing that crazily home, it would have had a better pace, because it slowed down. It went from like full speed and it slowed down a bit, and then it went back, right? And that slowdown could not have been there, and it would have been I think a near perfect book like that. But even as it is, it's pretty damn near perfect, and I'm a huge fan. So I can't wait. Can't wait for more, honestly. I cannot wait for more. All right. Until the next one.